Welcome back. The interim U.S. attorney just put in the job. She was tasked with prosecuting Letitia James, who is the sitting attorney general in New York, sent several messages via Signal, we'll talk about that in a second, to a reporter about the case. The details of those texts from the attorney, Lindsay Halligan, Eastern District of Virginia, are found in a new article from nonprofit publication known as Lawfare. Its author and recipient of the messages, Anna Bower, joins me now. Not for just one segment, but two, so we've got some time here. Anna, it's great to have you with us. It starts, and I want to show the graphic, ladies and gentlemen, from your piece. Anna, Lindsay Halligan here. That's how this all begins. And then you went through a process of making sure it was Lindsay Halligan, the interim U.S. attorney on this case, messaging you via Signal.
Yeah. So, it was a Saturday afternoon. I was sitting in my apartment, got a message that said, Anna, Lindsay Halligan here. And I don't know about you, but it's not every day that I get a Signal message from a sitting United States attorney, although I am a reporter who, covers legal issues. I didn't quite believe it. I thought it was maybe someone pretending to be her. But there were a few ways that we verified or had a very high level of confidence that it really was her. The first way is that I asked her where we first met and who she was with. Context of that being that several years prior, I ran into Lindsay Halligan and another attorney, both of whom at the time were on a Trump's legal team as his criminal defense lawyers. Ran into them after a hearing. We briefly spoke for 10 minutes. I had not spoken to her, in the time since, but I figured she would remember the interaction, and she was very quickly able to answer accurately the question of where we met, who she was with. The second way we verified this was by obtaining her phone number through independent means. We then put it in my phone contacts, and immediately Signal recognized that our existing conversation was with someone who had her phone number. So, and then ultimately, of course, when we went to request comment, the Justice Department confirmed that it was indeed Lindsay Halligan I'd been texting with.
And if you were to try to tell my audience, Anna, the essence of your back and forth on Signal, which is a kind of, it's not super secret, but it's more secretive than other text mechanisms to communicate with. Government officials and reporters often use it. I've used it. I'm sure you've used it. What's the essence of the back and forth?
Yeah, so we used Lindsay Halligan used Signal to reach out to me, as you mentioned. She set the messages to disappear after 8 hours, but I screenshotted them to preserve them. The essence of it is that she was reaching out to me about a tweet or a series of tweets that I wrote, not that did not contain my own reporting, but in fact was a summary of a New York Times report concerning the Letitia James case, of course, that being the New York Attorney General. And in this article, it explained and reported on some grand jury testimony that had been given by Letitia James's grandniece, who lives in the home that is the subject of the indictment in that case. I summarized it in a tweet, and then later also made a comment about the grand jury testimony in a different tweet. And so we have this exchange in which Lindsay Halligan is messaging me about my tweeting and saying that I've gotten something inaccurate. At one point, she says that the New York Times has disclosed grand jury information. And then she directs me to look at the indictment. And so we have this back and forth in which she's telling me I've gotten something wrong. But I continued to ask what exactly it was I got wrong. And I never got an answer from her.
Anna, I want to quote from your piece, because it was obvious that Lindsay Halligan feels some pressure that the case she brought against Letitia James is perceived by some as flimsy, and she wants to defend it. So in one of her Signal text to you, she replied, "You're assuming," meaning you, "exculpatory evidence without knowing what you're talking about. It's just bizarre to me," she writes. "If you have any questions before you report, Feel free to reach out to me, but jumping to conclusions does your credibility no good. Later on, many days later, she texted, by the way, everything I ever sent you is off record. You're not a journalist. So it's weird saying that, but just letting you know. Well, wait a minute. Earlier she said before you report. Journalists report. So by definition, you're a journalist.
Yeah, look, she multiple times at another point in this conversation, she said, "You're the only reporter that I reached out to." So she clearly had an awareness that I'm a reporter. The previous time that I had met her, it was in the context of having just reported on one of the hearings that she was representing her client in, and at that time as well, she and the other attorney that I met, they expressed their dissatisfaction with my reporting about that hearing.
The point being, they knew you were a reporter.
Right, they knew I was a reporter, and look, she approached me. This was an unsolicited message. This is from a sitting United States attorney. Any public official who is in a high-profile position, the way that she is, I mean, she is prosecuting two of the most high-profile cases in the country. She reaches out to me. We do not have an ongoing reporter-source relationship. And she never once in that entire conversation suggest in any way that we were anything but on the record. And people who know these conventions well with journalism, it's that you have to have a basis on which you are speaking, an agreement. Otherwise, you assume by default that you were on the record. And Lindsay Halligan, I'll mention, is someone who, does media appearances. She goes on TV. She worked in the White House. She has a degree in broadcast journalism. So, my assumption is that she would know very well exactly how these journalistic conventions work. And so it was quite interesting that right before we're about to publish, she suddenly insists everything's off the record.
And we got about 45 seconds, Anna. So you kept probing her about ways in which the Letitia James case was stronger, and she never got back to you on that.
No, she never got back to me. And look, she had approached me about something she claimed was inaccurate. And then when I kept asking, well, you have to be specific, she said that I would refuse to correct my tweets, but I still don't exactly know what it was that she was even saying was incorrect because she wouldn't tell me. And I posed a series of questions to her about, why it is that I was skeptical of the strength of the case based on the indictment and the public evidence. And she never got back to me on that. And so, I'm still waiting.
Still waiting.
But yeah.
It's a painstaking business, ladies and gentlemen, journalism. There's a lot of processes that go into it. Anna Bower is pursuing them. We thank you for your time and your efforts. I appreciate it very much.